The future of film photography. The next generation. Never before seen. Smoke graphics behind camera silhouette composite. Yeah, I'm just gonna get to the point. I invented a new film format that I call ultra half frame. This format lets you shoot ultra-wide panoramic photos on regular 35mm film, and you can shoot it right now without needing to spend thousands of dollars on something like an X-Pan, although I still do kind of want one. But yes, after watching this video, you will be able to go out and shoot a roll of ultra half frame with a film camera you probably already own, maybe, hopefully. Now I'm sure you can tell from the name Ultra Half Frame that this is not like an X-Pan, but is a half frame format. You know, like regular half frame, except ultra. You see, regular half frame splits a 35mm frame into two photos like this. You know, makes sense. Ultra half frame splits it like this. This is truly revolutionary technology. Seriously, no one's done this before, as far as I can tell. I came up with this idea last year when trying to figure out how I could test certain chemicals in a unique way for an upcoming video, and while working on that video, I realized that I can't release it without someone else independently coming up with the idea for ultra half frame themselves. It's just so simple, and it's way cooler than regular half frame. I wrote a ton of extra technical information about this on my website if you're interested. I'm not gonna cover that stuff in this video, but let's just say I've thought long and hard about this format and how to make a dedicated camera that shoots ultra half frame. Sadly, there are no dedicated cameras you can go and buy to shoot ultra half frame, so you gotta make one yourself. And to do so, you simply modify an existing film camera. This doesn't require any tinkering or disassembly or anything crazy like that. The only tool you need is a piece of gaffer tape, or really anything. All you gotta do is just put something in front of the film. That's it. I use gaffer tape since it's tape that doesn't leave much residue and it can be removed easily. I cut a strip that's a little tiny bit more than 12mm thick. It's better to overshoot than to undershoot, and I place it over one half of the film gate. In this example, the top. You're going to want to make sure the long edge of the film gate on the top is covered so you don't get a little sliver of light coming through. And also, if you cut the tape too small, you can get overlapping exposures in the middle between the two halves. So after your tape is in place, load the film, shoot the roll, rewind the film, move your tape to the other half, reload the film, shoot the roll again, and boom, ultra half frame. Now that sounds easy, but it's a little bit more complicated than what I just explained, as I found out myself after I shot the first ever roll of ultra half frame. You see, my first problem was I placed the tape over the top section of my film, leaving the bottom part open for light to pass through. So when I composed every shot, I was using the bottom half of the viewfinder. And I had completely forgotten that the image you see in the viewfinder is exposed upside down on the film. So yeah, all the shots on the first roll were just of the ground, since none of my shots captured the intended composition. What you should actually do is a lot easier to remember. If you cover the top part of the film, then you shoot the top part of the viewfinder. If you cover the bottom, you shoot the bottom. Easy! Just keep a little reminder on your camera so you don't forget which half you're shooting. The next most important thing might be sadly unavoidable depending on your camera, and that would be maintaining frame spacing. Both of the rolls I shot ended up one sprocket hole misaligned. I tried ensuring the film was positioned exactly in the same spot for my auto-winding Minolta, but nope, off by one. I tried cutting marks in the film and ensuring they lined up with the sprocket gears with my Nikon FE, but nope, still off by one. The best advice I can give for manually wound cameras like my Nikon is to make marks on the film itself at the exact edge where it exits the cassette. Make a mark, wind the film, then mark that edge again. You could do this a third time to make super duper sure it's lined up. The idea is that if you make those marks, shoot a roll, swap the tape or whatever you use to block the light, and then ensure that those marks line up exactly with the edge of the film cassette when you reload the film and wind it. The exposures should be aligned between the top and bottom. Your winder hopefully isn't going to skip a sprocket hole after it's been fully wound once or twice. Anyway, even if you mess up, as long as you try to get it close, the most you're going to be be off is by 1 sprocket hole, which isn't a big deal. If you don't cut your negatives, frame alignment doesn't matter at all. Or if you're like me and you do cut your negatives, you just have to choose to sacrifice either one part of the frame, a little bit of 2 frames, or you could just kind of, do a Tetris block thing and save both entirely. Good luck getting this scanned at a lab though. If you're using an auto winding camera, the best advice I can give is to try and spin your film inside the cassette all the way back to get rid of any slack that's inside of the cassette. And you do this before loading the film into the camera both times. You'll have to hold the leader while you're spinning the film. But if you do that, it should be a little bit more consistent with the auto winding mechanism. Your frame alignment is still going to be up to random chance. Another cool thing you can do with this tape method is that you don't actually have to shoot ultra half frame. You can shoot other totally unique formats, like maybe diagonal half frame. Just remember the image is flipped left and right on the -2, or maybe quarter frame, which is a real format with existing cameras. Maybe you could do some kind of interleaved exposure. Maybe L-shaped with a 1/4 exposure on the side. You could even 3D print a totally unique shape and then print the inverse of that and use those to create extremely complex multi-exposure photos. Like really, the possibilities are endless. The tape method, or frame blocking as I call it, opens up so many new ways of capturing photos, and all with regular film cameras with minimal special hardware. Of course, a dedicated ultra half frame camera would be a better solution, but those don't exist yet. Please send me money so I can start a camera company. One last thing I'll go over is lens choice. So if you're using tape or a frame block to capture ultra half frame, you're pretty much gonna only be using one extreme half of your lens, not the center, which is where most lenses look the best. So you're gonna get more pronounced vignetting or lens aberrations depending on the lens that you choose. For the first roll, I used the Minolta Maxim kit lens, and ignoring the composition problem, I think the image quality turned out fine. The only thing is, composing the shots required me to tilt the camera in ways that may not be ideal. Like, no matter what, the perspective is going to be weird, which might actually make for a more interesting photo. But for the second roll, I decided to fix the perspective issue by using a perspective correction lens, or shift lens as they're usually called. This kind of lens lets you shift the horizon of the image up and down without changing the perspective, so that way vertical lines remain parallel. I really like this lens. It's a Nikkor 35mm f2.8 PC lens. They can be had in near mint condition for $80 to $100, but don't pay more than that because they are fully manual and sort of complicated lenses to use. They are very high quality and I highly recommend them though. There's also a 28mm version of this lens, and I know there's a bunch of newer tilt shift lenses you could use too. When I use this lens to shoot the second roll of ultra half frame, I had the horizon leveled in the half of the frame I was exposing for at all times. Basically, I was putting the center of the lens into my shot as if it were a regular camera. I could then adjust it up and down a little bit more if I wanted to. It looks goofy to say the least, but it works! I compose my shots by drawing an imaginary line through the center of the viewfinder and ignoring the half of the frame I'm not exposing for. Once you've done this a few times, you get used to it and it isn't that hard. Plus, you still get to see the whole frame, which helps with composing, and you can still get focus just as easily if you have a split prism viewfinder like mine. To end the video, I'll continue showing the shots from the second roll of ultra half frame. These were all shot with the PC lens on my Nikon FE, all manually exposed, with bulk loaded, Remjet backed Kodak 250D developed in ECN2. Obviously, the goal would be to have a dedicated camera for this format, likely using a system I've outlined on my site to move the film up and down to facilitate the frame split. I'm publishing all this information under the Apache license, so that way it's kind of like an open standard and any company can see this video and just make a camera for ultra half frame. I think it would be ridiculous to attempt to patent something as simple as this. Another interesting thing is that I think it is possible, due to the smaller frame size, to fit a sliding mirror type reflex system into a camera body that uses a modern mirrorless lens mount, L mount specifically. Yes, imagine a mirrored film camera in a modern mirrorless mount body. It would be tight, but I think it's technically possible, maybe? I just need $1 billion. So once again, if you liked this video, please consider donating or joining channel members. Press the like button, leave a comment, especially if you can figure out a better way of making sure the film is aligned with the tape method. And I'll be back next time with a brand new video that probably won't be about camera stuff.